Good afternoon again, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. I'm Bev Stroh with the TA Network for Children's Behavioral Health, and I'd like to welcome you to this month's System of Care Leadership Learning Community Meeting. Denise and Solveig and I co-facilitate this learning community. We hold it monthly, and it's designed to support leaders in systems of care in states, communities, tribes, and territories, both those with and those without federal grants. We try to address topics that are important to you, and we always welcome your suggestions for future topics. This year we're going to focus on operationalizing various elements of the system of care approach, which was a need expressed by many of you. And today's session will focus on operationalizing social marketing and strategic communications. I'd like to emphasize that we want these sessions to be as interactive as possible. So we encourage you to put your questions, comments, insights in the chat box throughout the session. And we've also incorporated time for questions and answers, and Denise and I will make sure that any questions you enter in the chat box are addressed by the presenters. Just below the chat box, you'll see a box that will allow you to download today's PowerPoint presentation and some other resources. And as a follow-up after this session, you'll receive a link to the recording of the webinar. Also, at the end of the session, a link will pop up for a very brief evaluation survey. We would really appreciate you taking just a few moments before logging off to complete this and to provide us with feedback. We do take it seriously, and we use it to improve our future learning community sessions, so we would be grateful if you would do that. I'd also like to let you know about a new learning platform that the TA Network will be adopting that will allow you to easily access all of the materials, the presentations, recordings, and such on particular topics, and will also offer some vehicles for you to interact with your peers and share resources. More information about this and how it can enhance the learning community experience will be available soon. And we are in the process of learning about it and its capabilities ourselves, and we'll be launching this early in the next year. Before we get started, I'd also like to mention that our next learning community meeting is January 16th, also 2:30 to 4 Eastern Time. The focus of that one will be on operationalizing the system of care, operationalizing family and youth leadership in systems of care, which, as you know, is a core value of the system of care approach, and one where concrete strategies to bring this from theory to reality are needed. So we hope you'll put this on your calendar and you will join us for that. Again, today's session is focusing on social marketing, strategic communications, and Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. The objectives are to provide information about technical assistance and resources that are available to you on social marketing and communications. You'll also hear about SAMHSA's plans for National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, and I believe some of the information you'll hear hasn't been made public yet. And you can also learn strategies for connecting with the national event and how you can capitalize on Awareness Day in your own jurisdictions with some examples of how a state and a tribe have accomplished that. We are very fortunate to have a group of excellent presenters today. First, we'll hear from Michelle Zabel, who's the director of our TA Network and is the assistant dean at the University of Maryland School of Social Work. Then we'll have two presenters from Vanguard Communications, Carolyn Fearing and Shannon Walsh. Both of whom have a long history of involvement in social marketing and communications in children's behavioral health, and Vanguard is now part of the TA Network social marketing team. They'll be followed by Ashley Lincoln from the Cherokee Nation System of Care Initiative, and then Jameson Cardenas from the Texas System of Care. And now I will turn this over to Michelle, who will get us started. Michelle?
Thank you, Beth, and welcome, everybody. It's so great to see so many names popping up into the registration and participants list. It's a big group today, and we're glad to be able to get this chance to present to you. As at the TA Network, we have been receiving some outreach in regards to social marketing, technical assistance, and so we're really happy to be able to organize this group of experts that can be available as a technical assistance team to you in your states, tribes, and communities. I'm looking forward to the Vanguard presentation, particularly around Children's Mental Health Awareness Day and activities, and we look forward to supporting their work as they lead that effort for us in the country this next year. What I wanted to just make very clear to people is that if anyone has, grantees or states, tribes, communities, has any social marketing needs and are looking for technical assistance and support, if you have a TA consultant through the TA network, they are to be, from this point forward, really your first point of contact. And they'll help you navigate accessing technical assistance through the TA network for the work that you're doing. You can always call us at the network at 410-706-8300 and always email us at the TA network at ssw.umaryland.edu. Any one of those ways will get you a response and the type of individualized and customized support you need in regards to the social marketing efforts that you've envisioned for your community. So we will continue to come back to you through this group and other venues to make sure that as we're more clear about the needs that you have, how we'll be matching up resources and supports. But I would also tell you to be on the lookout. A year or so ago, the TA Network did a state and community information exchange where we asked you to tell us what the type of technical assistance priorities you had so that we were sure we were contracting and connecting people with the experts that were really needed for you to move your work forward. And we'll be doing that same effort very soon in regards to larger system of care work that you're doing, but particularly around social marketing efforts as well. And we will use that. We will be happy to feed that information back to you. As always, we're appreciative of your responses. And we'll be using that to continue to refine how we organize and support the work that you'll be doing. And finally, I would say, just in terms of communication, I know Beth and Denise say this on every call that they have with you guys, remember that the TA Telegram is our way of communicating with you about anything that we have as an opportunity. So again, please be in contact with your consultants. Never be afraid to call us. Always email us if you need support, and look for further information through the TA Telegram, inclusive of that state and community information exchange, as we try and outreach and respond to your technical assistance needs. The team that we've put together, which Beth alluded to earlier, but let me round it out, includes staff and here at the Institute for Innovation and Implementation, our colleagues at FREDLA, the Family Run Executive Director Leadership Association, Youth Move National, NICWA, Management and Training Innovations, which for those of you who don't know is Beth's role, Frameworks Institute, and our colleagues at Vanguard Communications who will present later. That is the team of folks who will make up the social marketing hub or team for the TA Network. Additionally, in terms of just the structure, so we're here to support you in terms of your social marketing needs. We will be outreaching in terms of this state and community information exchange. And then our colleagues will also be setting up advisory councils that we will be using for not only Awareness Day activities, but that will be first and foremost given the time of year that we're at, but additionally social marketing activities throughout the country. And so there'll be a Youth Advisory Council, which Youth Move National is in the process of organizing and establishing. A Parent and Family Advisory Council that, for those of you who read the TA Telegram, there was actually an opportunity for application. Numbers of family members and parents applied, and FREDLA is in the process of that closing on Friday, and then we'll be establishing that advisory council as well. So my plug for always reading the Telegram. The NASHBIT Children's Directors Work Group has graciously agreed to establish a process with us, and Beth will be leading that so that we can use the NASHBIT Children's Directors for their key informant input. And then Nick will also be organizing a Tribal Advisory Council. So again, if you feel lost in any of this, please use your consultants, call us, email us, or you can reach out to any of our core partners who are part of the social marketing activities to ask any questions as these advisory councils get organized, Awareness Day activities roll out, or you as a local, state, community, tribe, or grantee have social marketing needs. Excuse me, I have the cough that everybody else has in the whole country. I apologize. So one of the things I did want to highlight today before I handed it over for the bulk of our presentation was that we have brought Frameworks Institute into this technical assistance hub. And on a personal level, I'm very excited to have them part of this opportunity. This, for anyone out in the country who's interested in accessing this Frameworks Institute as a resource, this is not a requirement. This is not something you have to do. This is an offering to you. And if this makes sense in terms of your social marketing activities or Awareness Day activities, we would let you know that it's available to you. So I would encourage anyone and everyone who doesn't know who Frameworks Institute is to go to the website. It's on the bottom of the page, frameworksinstitute.org. Frameworks is a nonprofit communications company who actually works to use scholarly research to frame public discourse on social problems. So they were founded in 1999, and they are well known across the country in helping communities and states design and conduct communications campaigns that take social issues that you might be concerned about, whether it is just general children's mental health awareness, whether it's suicide prevention, whether it's early childhood mental health, whether it's school safety, and take that information, use your data, and help you frame the social conversation so that the general public can hear it. So again, we've engaged with Frameworks as one of many options and opportunities that you as grantees and states and tribes can access in terms of the social marketing support that the Technical Assistance Network is offering. We will be hosting a webinar where Frameworks will be explaining themselves more fully, explaining the process and the offering that's available to you in February. So read the TA telegram, talk to your consultant, and please be on the lookout for that scheduling of that event. What we have asked Frameworks to do at this point in time is organize a 3-part series of seminars or virtual webinars that will organize how a frame gets established in a community. We've contracted with them for a technical assistance, individualized technical assistance for states and communities. And then we've also purchased subscriptions. And again, this is a reason for you to go to their website and look at the offerings that they have available. We've purchased subscriptions so that any state and grantee who is interested in having that available, it is paid for and it's a resource to you. So to be clear about that, the Frameworks Institute subscription has been purchased with the understanding that it's not for a person, it's for your community. So what I would encourage you to do is go look around on their site, get a sense of what they have to offer, talk to your colleagues, and if you're a state, talk to your communities. If your communities, talk to your state. Think about if this is a resource that you think you could use. If you can use it, then think about your leadership team that wants to get oriented to this, might want to go through the online seminars that are available and talk about how to use this. Again, it isn't intended to be for one person in a community. It's intended to be for communities and states. So, I look forward to this coming back up in February. Please, if you have questions, talk to us about it. Any of you out there, and many of the states have used frameworks in their own framing opportunities. If you have any thoughts or guidance about the lessons learned you had in using this kind of model, we'd love to hear that as well. But be on the lookout because it is coming your way. It's an opportunity, not a requirement. And we look forward to being able to roll it out for those of you who want to take advantage of it.
Michelle, we're just going to take two questions that came in while you were presenting. One is from Millerine, and the question there is about access and whether it's available now, and will they have a period of 6 months starting with the initial contract. So when will this be available?
Well, we had talked to Frameworks about starting at the month that they did the initial webinar, so that would be February. If there are folks out there who are in the midst of a process and want to make this available prior to that and feel like they can use it prior to that, just let us know that, and we would be happy to negotiate this earlier for January. But the idea had been initial webinar would be available for the country, and then the license would be available. Our intent was to keep this available for folks through the end of the TA network contract, which is what we can commit to. So our contract goes through September 7th, and then we have another renewal period for another year. So if this was used and people liked it and wanted to keep using it, our intent had been to make it available for states and communities through the end of what we could commit to in paying, and then, we'll see what the world brings us after that, right?
That's great. And then Bonita is asking if they need some kind of access information and password. And so, Bonita, again, once we have the contract in place, then we'll be able to disseminate that information, and we're looking to give one license per state, as Michelle indicated, one subscription per state to cover all the grantees in that state so that we can maximize this subscription. Everybody who registered for this webinar, you're going to get a follow-up email from me with the link to this recording, and I'll use that same email string to give you the announcement for when we have the Frameworks webinar scheduled. I'll send all of you the registration link for that webinar as well. And if you have any questions, you can use the email that you received from me. You can send it back to me, and I'll be happy to respond.
My prediction as well is that there will be some of you out there who love this and want to go even deeper. And so, obviously we at this level, what we've provided or trying to provide you is the beginning process, right? The organizing how to frame the subscription so you can do work in your community together to move it to that secondary level, individualized technical assistance. But in the approach that the TA Network has always taken, which is to try and individualize and customize the way we match up to your needs, as we move through this year together using frameworks, we want to hear back from people if and when you want to go deeper in this work, or if you just don't find it to be the type of approach you want to take for your state or community or tribe. So, we'll just keep in conversation about this, and that'll help us determine how to best use our resources in this particular option area in the future. But I do look forward to hosting them in February and letting people hear about them. Please troll around on their website, get a sense of what they do. I see Millie's up, indicating that Tennessee has used them. I know Colorado has used them. They actually presented with Colorado at the training institutes as well. So we have states that in the meantime till February, if you want to talk to people who've used them and how their states have used them, I think we could also make those connections for folks that who are interested in kind of just preparing themselves to receive this information. So just, be in contact. We're happy to respond and get you connected and help people figure this out. So.
And then as Beth has indicated, yes, we can make subscriptions available to states without grants as well.
Yes. The intent was to make it available across the states and tribes and And so we'll just work with you to figure out who's going to host it. There's going to have to be a person who's the host, the champion. Think of it that way, in the state. And then your job will be to like convene and organize your local team who's going to work on this. But we'll just hold hands and figure this out together. But we're happy to be able to provide this as an opportunity.
And thanks, Carrie. Carrie, echoing Millie, they love frameworks in Tennessee, and Carrie, who is project director there, is happy to connect with any of you who have questions. So thank you, Carrie.
Great. So I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn now, who is going to give you updates on social marketing and the campaign. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. So Michelle just talked about how you all can get help with social marketing, and I'm just going to talk very briefly about what it is for a second, because we're going to have some great community presentations in a minute on this topic around Awareness Day. And so just a reminder to those of you, in case you're new, that we're not talking here about Facebook and Twitter, but we're talking about using communications, strategic communications, to raise awareness, to change attitudes, to change beliefs around children's mental health, so we can change behavior. And so what that might look like is changing those attitudes, creating the buy-in, so that when we see that behavior change, we are seeing systems change, because we are getting towards that, increasing the number of families and youth who are seeking services. So social marketing sometimes is often thought of, social marketing communications is just fluff, it's public relations, but it's not. There are several social marketing sustainability strategies that benefit from social marketing, and those include cultivating strong interagency relationships, having that consistent message. Okay. Cultivating strong interagency relationships, for which, having a consistent message is super important. Involving stakeholders. Awareness Day is a great time to involve all of the stakeholders in your community, so education and community organizations. Establishing a strong youth and family organization. Good social marketing involves, working with the audience that you're trying to reach. And again, Awareness Day is a wonderful time to involve youth and families. And using evaluation results. You've collected the data, so use it. Use it to tell the stories of your success. So all of those social marketing activities are not just fluff. They are contributing to your system of care sustainability. So we've talked a little bit now about what it is. So I'm going to very briefly just show you here how you do it. Social marketing planning is really a whole webinar in and of itself, so we're scratching the surface, but you will see this planning process brought wonderfully to life by two communities, Cherokee Nation and the Texas System of Care, who are going to present here in just a minute. And, the key takeaway really is that social marketing shouldn't just happen. It will be a lot more effective if you plan it. We're talking here today about how to leverage Awareness Day as an activity and an event, but really there's a lot of planning that goes into that to make it as effective as possible. So you need to start with a goal. Your communications goal should tie into your overall program goal. You want to think about who are you trying to reach. You can't reach everyone in your community. You're not reaching the general public. You're being very targeted about who you're trying to reach. Messages, we just touched on that a little bit with framework. One of the most important elements of message development is involving your audience and the people that you're trying to reach in creating those messages. And then thinking about the channels that you'll use, and not just thinking of that in terms of media, but also community organizations. And we've done all these steps, and now we're at activities, events, and materials. And the more time you spend planning, the more effective that phase will be. And then moving on from that, of course, you want to think about pre-testing materials with the audience that you're trying to reach, implementing your social marketing, and finally taking a look at what you've done, evaluating it, and making sure that it can be as good as it is and even better next time. So we have a couple of suggestions here for sites that are new to Awareness Day and how social marketing can help you. It's a great opportunity to engage families and youth. It's a great way to connect with new partners, again, going back to that sustainability strategy. It generates great media coverage, again, using your evaluation results. It's a great opportunity to form a social marketing committee, get the feedback from your audience, and it helps you really, it's a great opportunity to kind of dip your toe into social marketing, even if you haven't done it before. It's a contained activity. It's not having to plan a communications plan for a whole year, but it's just a short time frame in which you can do it. And then for those of you who are pretty familiar with Awareness Day and who've done it for a long time, Awareness Day is a great opportunity, again, to showcase your leadership in children's mental health. You can connect to the national conversation, especially if you're on social media. It's a great way to draw in new stakeholders, especially because there's a different theme for Awareness Day each year. And it's a great way, again, to think about, how you can improve and do something different the following year. So whether you're new or experienced, it's a great opportunity to get involved in social marketing. And so I'm going to hand it over now to Aimee Andre from SAMHSA, and she is a government project officer over there, and she is going to talk about Awareness Day 2019.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I really appreciate that. Hi, my name is Aimee Andre. I'm a public health advisor at SAMHSA in the Child, Adolescent, and Family branch. I work with Lisa Rubenstein, and that's a name that is probably familiar to most, if not all of you. Lisa has been a tireless champion here at SAMHSA of Awareness Day and has held a phenomenally critical role in the ongoing success of Awareness Day over the past, I would say, 13, 14 years now. And we all owe her a huge debt of gratitude for her work in making Awareness Day happen each and every year. And my role in relation to Awareness Day is bittersweet. I am taking over for Lisa because she is retiring at the end of January. I want to thank her. Unfortunately, she's not able to be on the call with us today, but I still want to thank her for her service and her dedication over the years, because Awareness Day just really would not be what it is and what it has become without her tireless efforts, and we're all very appreciative of that. So I have really big shoes to fill, and I'm really excited about Awareness Day, what we have planned for 2019 and on into the future. So just wanted to take a moment to say that. I think that Ellen really said it best in terms of the importance of Awareness Day, the way that Awareness Day, as well as other social marketing and public education activities and events, fit into the overall structure of sustainability that was discussed on slide 14, and the way that all of these come together when it comes to our collective ultimate goal of systems change. With that in mind, I want to turn it over to Carolyn's colleague at Vanguard Communications, Shannon Walsh, and she's going to tell you some of the particulars that we have planned for this coming Awareness Day that's coming up in 2019. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Aimee. So what is Awareness Day? I know on the phone we have some of you that are very familiar with Awareness Day, and then some might just be learning about it for the first time. And so like all good social marketing efforts, National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day grew out of a request from listening to our audiences. In 2005, the Oklahoma System of Care wanted to celebrate its partnerships and the work that it was doing on the community level, and wanted to engage SAMHSA on the federal level to really amplify and showcase the work that's happening around children's mental health all throughout the country. So it truly began as a grassroots effort. And now it's intended to amplify the work that each of you are doing within your communities, your states, your tribes, and then also to be a national observance around National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. So it brings together a multitude of different disciplinary organizations, not just on one single day, but year-round. And you'll see, although I'm going to be talking about the national event, there are multiple opportunities for you all to participate in activities going all throughout the month and even throughout the year. So this is a little snapshot of what communities and states and tribes have done for Awareness Day in the past. Awareness Day activities vary in kind, and they vary in size and scope. So past examples have been community, states, tribes, territories throughout the country hosting events such as health fairs, educational forums, mental health first aid trainings, mental health summits, and awareness walks and fun runs, and as well as lighting up state capitol buildings for the National Day and so forth. And so you will hear some of those community and state examples a little bit on from Ashley and Jameson, but you can see that Awareness Day activities really vary and can be anything based on what's really aligned with your goal and what you're hoping to do within your community. So we're actually going to do just a quick poll question that's going to come up, and this is to really find out what you've done for Awareness Day. So these are some examples here. Watched the live webcast, engaged on social media or did local media outreach, hosted your own Awareness Day event or activity, or something maybe that you've done that's a bit more unique. And if you'd like, you could tell us more about that in the chat box. So we've got a lot of responses coming in. Most of you do your own Awareness Day events and activities, which is wonderful, and really the intent of today's webinar to focus on what each of you are already doing or plan to do, and then how that ties into the national event. So that's great. Thanks. Okay. Oh, we did get a response. So in Indiana, you did ribbons with your logo on it, and over 275 youth workers in the county wore the ribbons that day. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. It looks like there's a couple more responses coming in. We have multiple people attending, so a lot of you want to share, which is wonderful. We'll give it maybe just one or two more examples that come in. Okay, so if we want to go on to the next slide, please. So in Ohio, you did a photo mosaic event at the local mall with over 400 participants. Wow. Set up at a local community event. So there's a lot of amazing things that each of you have done. So that's wonderful to hear. So in addition to the work that you all are doing within your own communities, I do want to talk a little bit about Awareness Day 2019 and the national event that SAMHSA has planned. So the date is Thursday, May 9th, 2019. So please mark your calendars for that date. And that is in line with the National Children's Mental Health Awareness Week, which always happens. And then, of course, the month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we're really excited to be doing it on that Thursday. And we do have a focus for this year, which is suicide prevention, looking mostly at youth and young adults and children and their families. So a little bit about the event format. So it will include opportunities for young adults and family members to use strategic sharing to highlight their stories, as well as experts in the field of suicide prevention, behavioral health, and mental health professionals and child-serving professionals will participate in a meaningful conversation around suicide prevention and will highlight evidence-based programs and practices. The event will always be webcast live, so those throughout the country are able to join. And we will also focus on a post-event learning community, which is really going to be a great resource for communities and for the local level youth to really focus on what out there around suicide prevention is really helping to make a difference within community, states, and even on the national level. So the goal for Awareness Day is to raise awareness of successful evidence-based practices that have resulted in a decrease of suicide rates among children, youth, and young adults who have serious emotional disturbance or serious mental illness, and children, youth, and young adults who do not. So SAMHSA's big priority, of course, is looking at children, youth, young adults. But this year in particular, looking at those with SED and SMI as a particular group, and then also those that don't, that this issue has really impacted. So the audiences for the national events are health professionals, which again include mental health, behavioral health, primary care, and suicide prevention, child-serving professionals, faith community, juvenile justice, social workers, school counselors, family and youth organizations, and then, of course, youth, young adults, and family members. And so most of you on the phone, I'm sure, are familiar because you're doing work in one or several of those spaces. So for Awareness Day, we always test messages with our key audiences and stakeholders to really make sure that we're tailoring the specific messages and having them best resonate with our audiences. So some of those groups that Michelle talks about in terms of those constituency groups are ones that we're doing message testing with and really making sure that the messages we're putting together for the national event are the best that they can be to reach those audiences. So there's a variety of different channels, and of course we've had access to a lot of channels, and we'll be partnering with NBC4 again this year, which is our local media affiliate. As you can see, there's several partners listed here, as well as national collaborating organizations that really help, and we have the great opportunity to work with collaborating organizations to help spread the word and promote the event, as well as each of you in your communities and states to help make sure that the national event is being promoted all throughout your community and state as well. So the activities, events, and materials that we have planned include the national event and live webcast, which I mentioned is on Thursday, May 9th. We also are very active on social media and using social media channels and putting together graphics using the hashtag Here is a Pope. There's also event programs and stage materials to make sure that the national event happens for the in-studio audience as well as on the live webcast. And so those are just a couple things that we put together for our activities, events, and materials, but of course there's several more. So for the evaluation, I'm going to talk quickly just about some of the metrics that we use to really test and make sure that what we have planned for the event is really showing the biggest success. And so we track webcast views and engagement as well as media impressions. And then we also try and get feedback from our system of care grantee communities and our partners as well, just to make sure that we're truly listening and using that feedback to not only enhance this year's event, but our planning in the future. So now I'd like to focus on ways for each of you to get involved in the national event. So this is really the main takeaways in terms of what we can share to make sure that each of you have the tools and resources that you need, and then also that you're being supported in your own Awareness Day activities. As we saw, there's several of you that plan your own events, but these are just a couple ways that you can engage with the national event. So the first is to watch the live webcast. So that, of course, gets live streams all throughout the country, and then it also gets archived, so there's an on-demand. So we encourage you to watch live if you can, and if not, to watch the on-demand webcast and make sure that you share that. During the event, you can also share questions, insights, and perspectives to those that are the subject matter experts and the young adults and families that will be sharing their stories. And then you can also share details about your Awareness Day activities through social media. So we want to make sure that we're hearing about what you're doing and how we can promote the work that's happening within your communities and states. And then lastly, promote the national event and your involvement through your own communication channels. So you'll see in the new year that we're going to be putting together several tools and resources that will be made available to you to really help and support in the work that you're doing to make sure that you can spread your Awareness Day messages all throughout the community and state. So now we have two community presenters that will be talking about their own Awareness Day experiences and activities. And so I would like to turn it over to Ashley Lincoln from the Cherokee National Hero Project in Oklahoma, who's going to talk about the amazing work that they've done for Awareness Day over the past several years, and how the work that they've done has really grown in scope and has now become a wonderful activity for their tribe to be able to engage with each year. So Ashley, I welcome you.
Thank you. So my name is Ashley Lincoln, and I am an evidence-based intervention specialist at the Hero Project with Cherokee Nation. So we are housed under health, and so we are children's behavioral health, essentially. So one of the main goals that we had for Children's Mental Health Awareness Day was we wanted to increase awareness and knowledge of children's mental health and resources. We wanted to be very strategic in that if we are increasing awareness and knowledge, that we were able to accommodate and have resources available, if we would have an influx in individuals seeking care. And so we wanted to make sure that we could meet that need. And a way that we figured out to meet that need was to partner with all of the other family and children serving agencies in our community. And so, we actually went through the training, the social marketing training. We had an event beforehand, and it was a successful event. However, after going through the social marketing training, we were able to really streamline that process and be very strategic in the activities that we were going to do and what was the purpose of them. So the audience that we identified for our event was that we wanted to target parents and caregivers, let them know about resources in the community, because a lot of parents didn't know what resources were available to them. And the reason we didn't target our community stakeholders is because we had done a lot of work through grassroots organizing efforts to really give them an understanding of children's mental health and what that was and what our program was trying to do. And so we had already laid the groundwork of hey, we want to partner together to do a big event for Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, and letting them know what Children's Mental Health Awareness Day was and the importance of it. So the way that we were able to come up with our messaging is that we went to our parents and caregivers, the ones that we were trying to target. Not only that, we worked with our Youth Move chapter, and we said, hey, we want to do an event, and we want to do an event for you. What would you like to see? And they came up with, we want a Disney theme. And so we were like, okay, tell us more about it. Why do you want a Disney theme? And they were able to give us some really good input on that. They said, And so we were able to come up with that for our messaging. So we took quotes from Disney movies. If you can see an example from Lion King. And then we also made signs that had different information about Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, and we posted them all around our community. And, you know, the importance of going to the audience that we were trying to target about an event that we were planning and doing focus groups really gave us good insight on what they wanted to see. So we weren't just, you know, shooting from the hip on, like, coming up with our own messaging. I always use the example with my Youth Move. There was a flyer, and I created it, and I was like, hey, guys, what do you think of this flyer? And my youth, they were like, that's awful. And because it wasn't youth-driven, they didn't have any input on it. And I'm not in high school anymore, and so I didn't appeal to them. And so they were able to really give us some good insight on this is what appeals to us, and, you know, this is the kind of event that we want to have. And so the way that we were able to, the channels that we used for Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, we partnered with local schools. So we did activities in all of the local schools. We read a book, it's called When Picasso Met Matisse, and we did that with all of the pre-K and kindergarten classes. It was an art activity, and it talks about social interactions and accepting each other's differences and appreciating your differences and what makes you special. And then we also partnered with all of the family and serving agencies in our community. And we said, hey, we're doing this event. And this was the second time for our event. So they had an idea of what we were doing. And when we told them we were doing a Disney theme, I think the agency members got more excited than anyone else. They were like, can we dress up? Can we do costumes? And the requirement was, you know, if you have a booth, it has to have something that promotes social and emotional development and has resources about services to your program. We got with community members. We have parent groups in our communities, and we told them about the event, and they spread the news like wildfire. And then our Youth Move, and we also have a tribal youth council, and we've partnered with them, and they really wanted to be involved as well. And then we also got all of our Cherokee Nation departments involved. They were really excited. We went out and did one-on-ones with them and told them about Children's Mental Health Awareness Day and what exactly that is and why it's so important. And we got a lot of buy-in from that, and they wanted to be a part of it. So here's an example of some of the materials that we've used. So we've done pledge banners. The first year we did a pledge banner, and then after that the community was like, we want a pledge banner every year. So that's one of the things they told us that they wanted, so that's one of the things we do. And it's a good way we set up a registration booth at the event, and so we have one point of entry, so everybody that comes in, they sign the pledge banner, and it's a way for us to get a good number of who actually attends the event. And then if you look, our logo is the hero logo. It's in Cherokee, and so what we did is we used it's spray chalk, but we got it ran off a couple times because people thought that we were, you know, defacing public property. But it's washable, and we just posted that everywhere, and we didn't put any information with it for the first couple of weeks. And so even I was on Facebook one day, and somebody had shared it, and they were like, I've seen these all over town. Do you know what this means? And it means Aji-la-Quoddy, which is, you know, hero in Cherokee. So then we went back the next week and then put, you know, information. We're having an event May 11th at One Fire Field, and to come join us. And then there's also an example of the one-page activity that we provided to all of the teachers over why we're reading this book, When Picasso Met Matisse, and why we want you to do that in your classroom, and then how to have a conversation about children's mental health awareness with the book. So our event, like I said, it was Disney themed. All of the partners dressed up in Disney characters. The booths were pretty elaborate. They kind of got a little competitive. We would have partner meetings leading up to the event. The first year that we did an event, we didn't have a committee created for the event. We didn't have partner meetings. it was the first time we had planned an event, and it was definitely a learning process. And after going through the social marketing training, they recommended having a social marketing committee. And so we got together once a week, and we really used the SAMHSA toolkit, the Awareness Day planning toolkit was perfect. And we use that every single year, and it's step by step. It even has sample proclamations that we've used. So it was a great resource to us. And like I said, all booths and resources were required to have a game related to children's mental health and to be able to have that conversation. And we had performances. Youth said, we want to have performances from youth. So we had live music, and they were youth performers, and we had traditional dancing, we had storytelling, we had cultural activities, and that all came from our community. They said, this is a Cherokee Nation event, and we really want a lot of culture infused in the activities that we're going to be doing. So here is a video that it's just a general overview of the event. Our communications department came out and filmed it with us. So we'll just take a minute to watch that.
This is the 4th year that the Cherokee Nation Hero Project has hosted Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. This free event was held at One Fire Field on Friday, May the 11th.
Youth Move chapter, and we say, what kind of event would you like? What theme would you like? And so our 2017 event was Disney theme, and you saw the materials from that. And this video is actually from last year's event, where we had a superhero theme. And so children came in their superhero costumes.
And have fun,
and like I said,
games,
our
enjoy music,
community members
food,
and our community partners, they look forward to this event every year now. And they're always like, what is going to be the theme?
This year's theme was superheroes, and everyone who signed the pledge banner received a superhero cape and mask to wear.
So that's an example of some of the events that we've done.
Because it's a hero project, we believe
some of the outcomes that we have is we've been able to
and we really
reach
want to
most of the
foster that
community through social media partnerships and community resources.
Our children,
and I put social media, but that's a majority of how we were able to
Cherokee Nation and other community, family, and children's services were on hand to provide a non-invasive way for families to get important information. Creoke's Behavioral Health Services gave away emergency doses of Narcan, which is a nose spray that reverses the effects of opioid overdose. They were given to parents and family first responders to keep on hand.
We also created a PSA, and we have a tribal closed circuit television that plays in our 8 clinics. It plays in our hospital and also at the tribal complex and its outlying offices. And we were able to reach over 100,000 tribal members with that PSA. And we actually had people come up and say, man, I saw that PSA.
There was
really
entertainment
cool.
for everyone, and the little Cherokee therapy horses were there for kids to pet, play, and learn about.
Some prominent
a slide and a bouncy house were provided, and each booth had games to provide some fun for the children. There were free hot dogs and plenty of cold water as well.
Where we asked community members about their
The Cherokee Tribal Youth Council was on hand to help children and adults make a basket to take home.
And this survey also tracks where did they hear about the Hero Project? Where did they hear about it from?
There was also a dance contest with prizes for the winners. May is Mental Health Awareness Month and has been observed in May in the United States since 1949. Hero in Cherokee means someone who is loved or admired. For information about the Cherokee Nation Hero Project, call 918-772-4004.
As successsul. The first 2 years that we did the event, we were just, I always say like we were building the ship as we were floating. And so they were successful, but I feel like at this point we've been able to really kick it up a notch. And we have, in terms of sustainability, the community looks forward to this event. And we've had other agencies want to take it over, and so we use them as big partners. And like I said, everyone's really excited about it now, and we've been able to get that conversation going about children's mental health. So some of the growth that we've had since Awareness Day, so we kicked off a suicide, we wanted to do an activity, an event for suicide prevention. And one of the things that we did is we went back to our youth and our parents and caregivers, and we said, hey, we want to have a conversation about, suicide prevention in our community. What do you think about that? What would you like for that logo to look like? What are some things that you think of? And they came up with a really cool idea that we never would have thought of. So in the Cherokee language, there isn't a word for goodbye. So we say, Donata go hunting, which is until we meet again. Or we say, we'll see you Sunali, which means tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow. And that's really common in our community to say. And so they said, why don't we use that as our logo for suicide prevention? We'll see you Sunali. And then if you look, it has the spider in it, which is grandmother spider, and how she brought the light to her people. And so being able to do this event, it wasn't really difficult because we were coming off of Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, and so all of our partners were really excited about getting together and doing this again. And it really laid the foundation for that activity. And the first year that we did this was 2017, and then this year we were able to do an even bigger event. We had Youth Move. They did a suicide prevention rally at their school, and then also the Cherokee Nation just as a whole really rallied behind us. And we had a suicide prevention rally at the tribal complex, and we had speakers, and we created shirts with this logo, and we had pledges, and it was just a really good event that people got really excited about, that we were able to talk about this in our community. And so I would like to introduce a state system of care. So we're going to hear about some of the really cool activities that Jameson is doing in Texas. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jameson Cardenas. I'm the Communications and Social Marketing Lead for Texas System of Care here in Austin, Texas. A little bit of background about me. So far, I've had the privilege of leading planning for 2 Awareness Day events, going on my 3rd as we're already looking ahead to next year. But I'm going to focus this presentation on our Awareness Day event from 2017 and how we incorporated our statewide Flight to Freedom awareness campaign theme and messaging into our local event. And just as a caveat, this was the first Awareness Day event that I planned for in 2017. So I hope that I can bring out some useful tips and some lessons learned, and with my fresh perspective that I had, share the areas of opportunity that we were to improve on. As a little background about who's making the decisions for our event, we have a planning committee led by me on behalf of Texas System of Care, and the committee is made up of about 8 other state and community agencies, including youth-led nonprofits that align with our event's mission. And these stakeholders were engaged and brought on when Texas System of Care first began this event back around 2014. They each bring their own expertise and agency resources to the table. I can easily say that these partnerships are what got me through my first year of planning. Like, I don't know what I would have been able to do without their support, especially since I had to start planning this event shortly after I got hired. So to me, partnerships are the most important aspect of Awareness Day planning, and I'll be reiterating that throughout my presentation as I share details about our event planning. So first, to serve as a building block for our event, Texas System of Care defined a 3-part goal driven by our social marketing plan. The first piece was to increase awareness and support for children's mental health. Like Carolyn said, we ultimately want to change behaviors and increase the number of families that seek services. Secondly, we wanted to build community leadership. We wanted to, get community influencers educated and on board with System of Care. And the third part, we wanted to nurture partnerships. And this goes for existing and also new partnerships. And again, this to me is the most crucial because it can feed all the other goals that we have here. And building relationships in the community is what gives us a real shot at reaching more folks because we have more resources at our disposal. So overall, again, kind of, drilling in what was already said earlier, all of these goals go toward our sustainability. at the end of the day, we might have some good photos, some nice photos of us, and we all had a good time at our event, sure, but these events truly have potential to bring attention to and sustain our work. But I honestly think it's only if the thought is put into it and proper planning are put in behind it. So in our case, we defined our goals, which were building awareness and community leadership and nurturing partnerships. But who are these people? Who's our audience? So first, we want to engage youth, of course, and more so, we want to make them a key part of our planning and programming. Second, we want to engage families and parents. We want to engage state legislators as we work to shift public policy here in Texas. And we're fortunate that our state legislators meet every 2 years right here in Austin at our event location at the state capitol. So we have their potential availability to join us for the event. And 2017 was one of those years when they were here in town. And lastly, we want to show local agencies from across systems what we're all about and hopefully gain new partnerships throughout this process. So after defining our goals and our audience, we needed to define our messaging. And as you can see on the screen here, we used 4 key statements that would set the tone for our program that we were hoping would resonate with our audience based on the feedback that we got. So I want to focus on one particular message on this slide, which is the 3rd bullet, you can rise above stigma. This message came from our Flight to Freedom campaign, which I mentioned earlier we incorporated into our event. And for those not familiar with Flight to Freedom, it's a statewide children's mental health awareness campaign here in Texas, developed by Texas System of Care and paving the way a couple years ago. And we had a steering committee that consisted of a number of Texas System of Care grantees. The idea behind Flight to Freedom was to use imagery and symbolism of the butterfly, which represents growth and resiliency, as well as transformation of mental health services. So it really integrated well with all the other messages that we had here. A lot of these messages were kind of multi-year use from our strategic plan. So it really integrated well with what we're already doing. And we made an online toolkit with outreach templates, artwork, and graphics that we adapted from SAMHSA's toolkit. And we did this for communities to hold their own events incorporating our campaign imagery and messaging. But the central part of the campaign, I forgot to mention, came from paper butterflies that Texas System of Care purchased and delivered to participating communities to have a quote-unquote butterfly release to build their events around and tie it all together with something tactile and engaging that communities that didn't have the means can easily have something as a large part of their event to do. And the next slide here. So now that we know our goal, our audience, our messaging, we get to what I find is one of the most challenging aspects of planning, which is the promotion, especially as a nonprofit. And this is finding strong channels to reach and engage our audience. And in our case, we explored some common ones, but we also did some new and interesting things that we had never done before regarding community partners and digital media, which I'll get to here in a second. But we had 4 primary channels to advertise through. Our first was child-serving agencies. So we targeted counseling practices, youth programs like the YMCA, etc., that may have a general interest in our demographic that would be interested in joining us on event day, or at least helping us promote through their channels. Secondly, we heavily relied on our planning partners' distribution lists and that strength in numbers kind of networking. Another way to help us attach to local agencies and businesses, we sought sponsorships. So this is something that I mentioned we've never done before. So we were seeking event sponsorships, and the decision to seek event sponsorships was driven by our sheer need for additional funds outside of our grant to help make the event memorable. And so we developed a sponsorship packet with tiers and perks that offered businesses brand visibility depending on how much how much of a monetary donation that they gave. And so this was just another means to help us gain buy-in and literal investment with our event. And third, we met with a local school to encourage participation and promotion through their D-list. And lastly, we harnessed digital and social media. So we, of course, used the popular free avenues of posting our event to Facebook and Twitter and our agency website. But one of the major improvements was expanding our online presence by creating a standalone website for our event. And you can see the screenshot from the homepage in 2018 over there on the slide. And we created a standalone website because I've heard it said many times over my career that if you're holding an event or you have a campaign, you want to give it an online dedicated platform, and that goes for both website and social media. And it's really easy nowadays to create websites. So we made ours with a free online website builder called Weebly. And there's a number of options like Wix or Squarespace and WordPress and things like that. But we chose Weebly, and we only pay $13 a year for a custom domain name. So it's a very low cost and sustainable solution that has worked well for us. And the reason that we purchased a custom domain name in the first place was because it looks more professional for marketing purposes. Like when the URL is written on a flyer or you're writing it in an email to a target attendee or speaker or things like that. It's much more marketable. Otherwise, if you're using the free version of an online website builder, it's going to have their name in the URL, like childrensmentalhealthaustin.weebly.com, for example. So it's just much more professional to at least redirect from a custom domain. Another interesting note about the website, not only would we house our event information on it, but we would also use it to create custom pages for speakers or anyone that we were looking at targeting to join us at our event. So this is pretty much an interactive invitation that helped us to engage speakers, and it worked pretty successfully. We were able to secure a pro bono keynote and a legislative speaker by providing or by sending out these custom invitations like that. So it's a pretty low cost, very interactive way to engage people you're interested in coming to your event with a personal stamp on it. Other materials that we developed include, these are some of our other materials. I was thinking of a different slide. Graphic design is one of my many hats, and when making our event materials, I wanted to make sure that our look was consistent and professional across all of our platforms, including our new website. And I find that this consistency and quality creates a bigger impact with targets. It brings more credibility, and also it makes me feel more confident whenever I approach a business to put forward an ask for a donation or ask for their participation in our event. And even if you don't have a designer on staff, a good place to start could be to reach out to a local university or a high school for a student volunteer, where some design students might be looking for a portfolio piece, something to add to their portfolios. So you can see the materials that we have here feature our Flight to Freedom campaign, butterfly imagery throughout, and we also tied in some messages on the left image there with some posters that we use for our march. And these were the t-shirts and fact sheets that we also developed. And the t-shirts feature a phrase on it that helps to tie in our messaging. And the phrase was inspired by an excerpt from a winning writing submission from our statewide Children's Mental Health Awareness Creative Arts Contest that we also hold each year. And this particular quote was selected and designed around because it tied in to all of our to every message statement that we had. So it really worked well and coincided with what we were doing. And the fact sheets below contain a number of stats to educate our audience more on our cause and change their attitudes towards mental health, which is one of the goals that we're hoping to accomplish. Now, the event format was developed to accomplish our event goals with 3 different components. The first is the rally at the Texas State Capitol. This was a 1-hour program where we have a number of speakers from our community and state partner agencies. We also have a award ceremony for an outstanding volunteer that helps break up the amount of speakers. We have my favorite part, which is a youth and a family testimonial. And we also have a keynote. And we try to find a prominent keynote for our event as a draw, something that can bring more attendees to them based on the popularity of this person. But we also find it's very important that this someone has real ties to our cause. So for example, I'm from Austin, so naturally Matthew McConaughey is usually the top person in mind for all local event coordinators if they're looking to bring a big name to their event. But we've debated in planning meetings whether he would in fact be the right fit for something with as much weight as a keynote speaker if he's not fully tied to our cause. So just some food for thought there. But in 2017, we had a great keynote. Her name was Ann Grady. She's a TEDx speaker and an author that lives locally. And Ann has lived experience with a son who has severe mental health challenges and shares through her story messages of motivation, strength, and courage. And you can find her on YouTube if you're looking to see some of her TED Talks and things like that. Again, her name is Ann Grady, and I highly recommend y'all check her out. And the rally closes with a pre-march pep rally led by one of our youth-led organizations on our planning committee. And we march to a nearby park, and we spend an hour and a half over there with attractions like a therapy horse, live music, free food, bounce house, so on and so forth. Pretty much as many things as we can fit in our budget and that we could attract volunteers to help us bring to the event. And like Ashley said, we also make sure that as part of our community resource fair that we also do, that each vendor brings a game or something interactive to engage the kids and the families that are at the event. So our outcomes, like I said, this goes beyond the photo ops. So here's some of the ways that our 2017 efforts helped our sustainability. And the first one is with new partnerships. We were able to attract a new stakeholder after this event from our local county sheriff's office. And coincidentally, the sheriff was looking to get more active around mental health, and they heard about what we were doing and joined in, and they actually bring a vast amount of resources to our planning team that I don't know how I was able to live without. So they've made all the following years that much easier as far as planning goes. And in the same line, our sponsorship program that I mentioned earlier has also allowed us leads for continued support that we have grown year over year. So in 2017, the first year that we sought sponsorships, we got 4 sponsorships for a total of $1,100. And in 2018, the next year, we got 11 sponsorships for $5,200. So this was, this effort and getting this buy-in and investment from the community was huge. Secondly, keeping a good rapport and collaborative approach has kept our existing partnerships strong. We also got support from local agencies and community leaders. 2017 was the first year that we had a legislator join us at our event, and we also were able to get a legislator in 2018, and so we're hoping to continue to increase our legislative partnerships in our events and getting that representation. We also had 200 people in attendance, and this is something that we're working to improve, but I'm happy to say that we increased in 2018 and the following year, and our reach was even more widespread when we got 3 media outlets covering our event, largely thanks to a prominent keynote that we were able to secure joining us, and that was Vince Young, who's a former NFL quarterback and University of Texas legend. So I largely think that was responsible for the increased reach that we got from the event. And lastly, we didn't have a mechanism in place to get attendee feedback for evaluation, so we made it a priority the next year. We developed a survey using Google Forms and sent it to everyone that registered. through Eventbrite, and this helped us gauge how satisfactory our event components were and how effective our messaging was. And these survey results now help guide our debriefs and informed decisions for the next year. And so that's everything I have, and now I hand it back to Beth at the TA Network.
And thank you so much, Jameson. We have a few moments left for questions, and you just talked about strengthening your partnerships as a result of some of the activities that you undertook. Ashley, I'm wondering if you could take a moment to talk about how your activities strengthen relationships or partnerships with some of your stakeholder groups.
Yeah, so some of the things that, like I said, we used, community organizing tactics to really garner support around children's mental health and give a lot of information. When we were building those stakeholders, we made like a folder. We had some infographics and just information about Children's Mental Health Awareness Day and the history of it. And we would go and actually meet with all of those stakeholders. And then, after the event, like I said, we met with them monthly leading up to the event, and then we met with them the week of the event as well. So we were really able to foster that relationship and learn a lot about their program, and they were able to learn a lot about ours as well. And so through that, we've been able to establish some, we have formal referral pathways with those community agencies now because they're really aware of the programs that we have. And so we know anytime if we have a question or if we have an event coming up that we can call them, and we just have this whole network that they will spread it out to, and vice versa. They have that same relationship with us.
Thank you, Ashley. It sounds like both of you have been very successful in strengthening relationships with existing partners, but also enlisting new partners in your work. I wanted to point out that there are a lot of resources available on SAMHSA's website for Awareness Day, and you can access them on this slide through the links. And also, these are some of the planning materials specifically that you might be able to use in planning Awareness Day activities in your own states and tribes and communities. We are very interested in what resources or tip sheets might be useful for you that aren't necessarily available yet. If you would put those in the chat box, we'll certainly look at those and hopefully be able to develop some of those resources, or email the TA network. And those will certainly be considered. See anything new except some people would like the T-shirts. It sounds like, Jameson, you may have to develop some new ones. With that, I'd like to thank our presenters for their outstanding work on this session and the rich information they shared. I think they left you with a lot of strategies that you can apply in your own states and communities, particularly how to leverage Awareness Day in a way that could support your goals. And as Michelle shared, there are lots of TA opportunities for you to take advantage of. Thank you also to Tiara Brown from the TA Network for handling all the technical aspects of this session and doing it so well as always. So thank you, Tiara. And please hang in there with us for just a few more minutes and use the link that will pop up now to complete the very brief evaluation. And another plug for the next Learning Community meeting on January 16th on family and youth leadership. Thanks to all of you for joining us today.